Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. And since you have just a few days left for CMAT 2025, we thought of basically walking you through all the things that you need to cover in the last few days when it comes to language comprehension. So, first and foremost, obviously, let's start with the elephant in the room, which is reading comprehension. So when it comes to reading comprehension, right, there isn't obviously a lot of extra stuff that you can do in the last few days. You can't miraculously improve your reading, you can't improve your speed a lot. However, and this is a very important part, some of you might have felt a little bit lethargic over the last couple of months after being done with CAT and everything else, and because of that, you might have skipped on all your reading practices. I suggest that it is time कि आप उठे अपने बिस्तर से, आप अपने आलस को साइड में रखें कुछ और दिनों के लिए and get back to reading. Make sure you're in the practice, make sure you're in the zone, make sure you do not give up. So the first point that you have to remember when it comes to reading comprehension is practice and get back in the habit over and over again. आप फिर से passages solve करना शुरू करिए, start attempting as many questions as you can, start going through what all mistakes are you making. This is the time when you can fine tune something that you already know. Obviously, I'm not expecting you to start with rocket science on day one tomorrow. However, something that you've already done in the past. I'm sure for CAT, ZAT, all of these different exams, you have already prepared and practiced quite a bit when it comes to reading comprehension. What you have to do right now in this particular moment is make sure you get back in the saddle again, make sure you're used to it again, make sure you build up that comfort level all over again so that you can finally ace this exam no matter what happens. Now, moving beyond the basic practice routine, I would suggest that if you find some basic flaws, make sure you evaluate and improve on those. For example, if you realize that one of your bigger weaknesses is the fact that you tend to get carried away with one of the options, you think, oh, you know what, this sounds familiar, and you are not the one for checking. I would suggest you change this habit right now, and yes, you absolutely can do this in the last few days. Absolutely can be done by you guys. Now, there's the point where I just want you to take half a minute and just think about, okay, where am I right now? What all do I need to accomplish when it comes to reading comprehension by the D-Day, which is for CMAT 2025? Just take a couple of minutes, think about it, and just know this fact. It doesn't matter how well you've performed in a different exam or how well you have not performed in a different exam. This right here is just about today. कि अच्छा आज मैं अभी मेरी मेहनत कर लेता हूँ. That is all that really matters and counts, right? Nothing really else matters. You just give it your everything. This is a one last chance, one last attempt for this particular session, and you just make sure that ठीक है, I'm giving it my all. No one can stop me from doing this. Okay? ठीक है. Now, moving beyond this part, moving beyond reading comprehension, we're going to go beyond this and start about just whether you should skim or not. Let's just discuss this topic for the last few days so that you can just sort of move beyond this part. So, when it comes to skimming, I'm sure that you've met a lot of teachers who've gone either way. They say, ki, oh, always skim. Some people say, oh, never skim. How about both? Why can't you just take two things instead? For example, like, yes, like it makes sense if you're on the final passage, if your mind's simply not working, sure, go ahead, skim, why not? If you feel like you have the time, if you have the energy, if you have the focus for it, don't skim. Check everything else out. Why not? Why not? Why do you have to settle for this one extreme? Why do we need to choose, oh, this one strategy, this source said, so I have to follow it? No, it's okay. Make up your own mind. We're all different entities, we're all different people, we can all choose our own ways. We can all choose our own paths. कोई आपको force नहीं कर सकता है. You decide what works the best for you. I've seen different students who do great with skimming and some students who are just horrid when it comes to skimming. They need to read the entire thing. Your personalities are different. Act accordingly. Don't just think, oh, you know what, this person does this, this will also work out for me. No. Practice, decide whether you need to do this or not. There's something you can focus on in the last few days before the exam. Now, moving on to the next part. Your vocabulary bit. What all do we need to do when it comes to vocabulary? Make sure, first thing, I'm sure you've maintained some sort of a notebook that you've already made where you have all the words jotted down, or maybe you have some sort of flashcards which you might want to get through. Any kind of high frequency words that you've already prepared, make sure you revise them before you sit for this exam. The reason for that is these words would be easier to recall for you. This would provide a lot of extra value to you in the last few days of your preparation, that you know what, in the last few days these are all things that I can cover. Don't start with new things before making sure that the things that you've already covered are done to perfection. इस टाइम पे नई वर्ड लिस्ट वगैरह स्टार्ट करना might not be in your best interest, especially if some of the older words are something that you do not explicitly and perfectly remember. So this might be a great time to just sort of have a look at things of how they're working, of how much you remember, go through those lists, try to remember those, try to remember the different contexts in which you have read those words. That is bound to help you out in your memory. That, okay, you know what, I read this particular word in this particular place and oh yeah, that was the meaning. That should be really helpful for you if you're able to remember that and recall that in that moment when you go through that particular word. Now, obviously, apart from this, we have all of the root words. If you have gone through root words, I suggest you do. If you haven't, once you're done with the revision of the things of the words that you've already done, I suggest you get started with root words. And the reason for that is very simple. For every single root word, you might not, like, you're not just doing a singular word, you're doing an umbrella of words. You're doing an entire cluster of words. एक वर्ड अगर आपको रूट वर्ड का आता है, आप 10 के पास में ऑलरेडी पहुंच चुके हो. इट्स एज गुड एज डूइंग 10 डिफरेंट वर्ड्स एंड वेरी क्लोज टू ईच अदर. श्योर यू वोंट रिमेंबर द एग्जैक्ट सेम मीनिंग इफ यू जस्ट डन द रूट वर्ड, and obviously we do recommend that you do the exact meanings of those words as well. But again, keep in mind, जरूरी नहीं आप अगर एक रूट वर्ड भी करके जा रहे हो, you're just doing 10. जितने रूट वर्ड्स कर सकते हो उतना बेस्ट रहेगा. Remember the root word, remember the definition, remember कि इसकी जनरल फील क्या है, what is the connotation that is attached to that particular root word. Is it positive, is it negative, how does it generally work, is it some neutral thing, is it just some random things like pod means foot, what is it? If you are able to remember that, anything associated with it, it'll be much simpler for you to process in that particular moment, even if it feels like it's something new to you. Now, moving on beyond that particular part, something that we do suggest that you look out for is, if all of these topics are already done for you, let's talk about grammar. So in grammar, revise your rules. This is extremely important. I'm sure that at this point in your preparation, where you've already appeared for so many different exams, you've already prepared like some sort of a notebook, some grammar notebook where you have things noted down, or maybe you already are in possession of some kind of notes. Go through them, no matter what happens. Just go through them, see how the rules work, and please, if you have not done the rules, I suggest कि use this time. जो main topics हैं अपने सारे के सारे, उनको explicitly थोड़ा देख लेना. Look at parallelism, look at modifiers, look at verbs, tenses, जो basic prepositions होते हैं. Have a look at them. Just go through it just so that you have some familiarity. एंड प्लीज अगर कोई रूल आपको दिखे कि अच्छा हाँ ये रूल इस चीज को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है, बिकॉज नाउ अगेन लेट मी टेक यू डाउन मेमोरी लेन. कुछ लोग अभी भी करते हैं, कुछ लोग पहले करते थे. व्हाट अ लॉट ऑफ यू वर इन द हैबिट ऑफ वाज, एंड सम ऑफ यू स्टिल आर, इज ग्रामर के अंदर इट जस्ट वी गो बाय द फील ऑफ द वर्ड्स. सुनने के अंदर अच्छा लग रहा है, नहीं लग रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, दैट इज ऑल यू रियली केयर अबाउट. I suggest if you come across a rule that goes against your basic idea of what sounds good, के सुनने में अगर आपको पढ़ने में रूल लगे कि रूल बोल रहा है कि अच्छा ये सही है, एंड पढ़ने में लाइक दिस डज नॉट फील राइट, एकदम गलत लग रहा है, एकदम अजीब सा साउंड कर रहा है सुनने के अंदर, मेरे को तो गलत लग रहा है, लेकिन रूल कह रहा है कि अच्छा नहीं ये सही है, pay some extra attention to that particular rule. Why? That's a rule you don't already know. अगर आपको सही चीज सुनने के अंदर खराब लग रही है या फिर कोई खराब चीज आपको सुनने में सही लग रही है, दैट मीन्स आपको वो रूल नहीं पता है. Your mind is not able to comprehend that rule. Your mind is not able to apply that rule in the relevant question. As a result, what you should do in that moment is you need to make sure कि वो rule आपके अच्छे से दिमाग में fit कर लिया है. Pay extra emphasis and attention to that one rule जो कि आपको सुनने के अंदर काफी ज्यादा अजीब लग रहा है. Now, moving on beyond this particular part, when it comes to grammar, this is the main segment that I want you guys to cover. Now, apart from this, just some overall tips. First thing, very vague tips, but I felt that it helps a lot of people. Don't panic. कुछ आता है ठीक है, कुछ नहीं आता move on. As simple as that. You do not start freaking out कि अरे ये word तो मेरे को आते नहीं. हाँ ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. Go beyond it. छोड़ो. This exam is just that. It's an exam. When it comes to the actual exam date, like ठीक है, you're prepared for it. अभी आपके पास में time है, you prepare. If you're like मैंने कुछ भी नहीं करा, ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, कुछ कर लो तो फिर. सब कुछ शायद ना कर पाओगे टाइम पे, but do some of the things. Should not be extremely difficult, right? आप start तो करो. Do not be like कि मैंने अभी तक कुछ भी नहीं करा तो अब करके क्या ही फायदा है. Doesn't make any sense, right? Get started. Start करो. कुछ कुछ चीजें रिवाइज करो, कुछ कुछ चीजें रिकॉल करो, कुछ कुछ चीजें देखो कि अच्छा क्या मेरे को ये समझ में नहीं आता था, एंड इज दिस समथिंग आई नीड टू कवर अप नाउ. एंड फाइनली हैव सम फेथ इन योरसेल्फ. थोड़ा सा फेथ रखो कि अच्छा मे बी यू हैव गिवन योर बेस्ट ऑलरेडी इन द पास्ट, मे बी यू हैवंट. आइदर वे, just the last stretch, it would absolutely be the worst thing ever if in the last few days you don't give it your all. Just be done with it. Just give it your all and then you're finally home free. You do whatever you want to. That's how it works, right? So with that in mind, I wish you all the best for your final days of preparation when it comes to your language skills, and see you next time. Thank you.